How's it going, everyone? It's Friday morning, which means it's time for Rob Schuh, who's back from Waikiki. He had some very peaceful and serene videos from the beach that were quite nice. You should check them out. Subscribe to his channel. He sent me a list of ideas, as he always does. Did this morning, and I have basically he gave me three. I came up with two, and one I'm not telling. What he doesn't know what the other one is. This is just it's a mystery. And it comes from Stephen Jennings, who's done one show with me. He's up in Portland. He DM'd me. This is his theory. So I want to give proper attribution. Stephen Jennings, thank you very much. It's brilliant. And I'm just kind of clearing my throat. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to get a question from another fellow Portlander.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Got to talk about something in late June. And this is very interesting to me. So let's take it back to late April. I can't get over this. Kyle Shanahan's demeanor at this press conference, 3 days before they drafted Trey Lance, he seemed mad. There was something off with him, and it was hard. No one will ever know why he was acting that way. It doesn't even seem like he was really supposed to be there. It was supposed to be John Lynch's day. Kyle Shanahan comes in. Lynch is in a great mood. Shanahan's frustrated about something. And my theory was always that they had the meeting that morning to decide who they were going to take. And he got overruled. He wanted Mac Jones, Jed York, John Lynch. Everyone said, you're taking Trey Lance. But it's possible that something else happened, Rob. Because I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe Kyle had, from all reports, he really liked Trey Lance. Why would he be mad that he had to take Trey Lance, right? I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? It's possible. He said at that press conference the word starting quarterback like 10 times. Remember that? I need a starting quarterback. He kept making a point of it. Not just a quarterback. I need a starting quarterback.
Quarterback.
I need a starting quarterback. And John Lynch, what was he kept saying about? Well, the best thing about this, he's been saying it, him and Jed York really, is that we can take our time. We can take our time with Trey. It could take 2 years. We got Jimmy. The best thing about this is we got Jimmy. And Trey can learn for as long as he needs. And you got Kyle saying, I need a starting quarterback. So this is through Stephen Jennings, gave me the idea. Seems to check out to me. What if what happened that day was Jed York told Kyle, we have to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. We're not going to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. You want Trey Lance? That's fine. We'll get Trey Lance. We're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo for a lot of reasons. This kid might not be ready. He sells tickets. He's marketable. I like him. We traded for him. I've paid him $90 million, and I'm not just going to cut him and let him go. If you're going to get rid of Jimmy, you need to trade him, and you need to trade him for at least a second. What if that happened? If that's why Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the team.
Whew.
It would explain the whole starting quarterback mantra thing that he kept repeating.
It certainly would, and it would explain the seething anger that seemed to come through in his replies.
Yes.
Because my theory was always, I'll go through and give you what my theory was, and then kind of answer what I think on this one. So my theory was always that he was just so irritated that anyone could question that, even if he wasn't going to take Mac Jones, that anyone would question who he wanted. That if he wanted Mac Jones, if he wanted Ziggy Marley, that we should all be okay with whoever he took, because he's Kyle Shanahan, he's a genius, and he's going to make whoever this is work.
Of course.
So that to me fit with the narrative. This would also explain why he would be so upset, right? Kyle strikes me as the kind of guy who is used to getting his own way, if only from the idea of being the smartest guy in the room. Oftentimes when you're the smartest guy in the room, people turn to you for answers. I know this because I've turned to the smartest guy in the room for answers many times. And so if someone comes to him and says, this is what's going to happen, we all know his feelings about Jimmy. His feelings are plain as day, right? Comes through on the sideline, the body language. He gets super frustrated with Jimmy. I mean, this feels like it could be an explanation for that.
I get the feeling that Kyle Shanahan would like Jimmy Garoppolo gone. It's like he's had enough of the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. There's got to be a reason that they were flirting with Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold, all these guys. It seemed like Kyle was working on a replacement for Jimmy, and at the last minute got overruled by a lot of people in the organization. Said, you know what, we're not just going to dump Jimmy. As much as you don't like him, this is a theory, but it seems to make sense. It just seems like Kyle has had enough, and he blames Jimmy for a lot of his problems. And when he kept saying, I need a starting quarterback, well, it means he doesn't have one. That he's afraid if he has Jimmy still, he gets hurt. It's the same thing. So I think if he had it his way, I think Jimmy be gone by now. And I think why you're starting to hear this enthusiasm about Trey Lance, that's why it's like, I was thinking that Kyle would be skeptical of Trey Lance the whole time. I don't hear that anymore. I hear a lot of enthusiasm. So I'm wondering if really he's going to make Trey Lance the starter, and just to put it back on Jed York and be like, well, what do you say now?
Yeah. So basically he's like, yeah, okay, great. We'll keep Jimmy, and then start pushing the Trey hype, and then all of a sudden, well, Trey's starting. So do you really want to, Mr. York, do you really want to pay $25 million just to keep him on the bench, or should we maybe work out a trade at this point?
I mean, maybe Kyle Shanahan's watching these videos where I'm saying the Niners need to get rid of Jimmy and use that cap space. He's like, yeah, tell him, Grant. And he's like forwarding it to Jed York. I'm saying the fans know the jig is, because you could look at it from Jed's perspective. The really diehard fans know about the cap and how you can't really win with a guy making 13%. And most fans don't know that. Most fans know Jimmy Garoppolo mostly wins. I like Jimmy. Jimmy's a handsome, nice guy. Why are we getting rid of Jimmy for some kid? We don't even know. I mean, I feel like a big section of the fans feel that way, and Jed might be sensitive to that. Like, look, I know, Kyle, that your expert opinion says you hate Jimmy, but I like him.
Yeah.
And so do a lot of fans.
I mean, Kyle claims to not be on social media, but I'm sure he has like 12 burners just like KD. And I'm guessing that that's exactly what he's doing. He's keyed into this show. He's forwarding it along to Jed York. And now we see the result, right? The fans want what the fans want. Give us Trey.
Yeah. So this is my shift. I went from thinking that Kyle was going to be as cynical and skeptical of Trey as he was with Jimmy, because he's always been that way with Jimmy.
Right.
Almost too much. And I felt like, okay, well, now it's Trey's turn because he didn't really want Trey. What if he's cool with Trey? He likes Trey. And the issue that's been bugging him is that they can't move on. They're still got Jimmy Garoppolo here. Because think about it. I mean, we're going to talk about this later in more depth. Yeah. But if Jimmy Garoppolo starts this year because Trey Lance isn't ready and goes on a run, once again, it's out of his hands, right? Once again, it's larger than life. It's taken on a life of its own, and Kyle can't do what he wants. Kyle wants to do what he wants to do, and at no point has Jimmy Garoppolo been in that equation. He feels like he's this close to moving on, but maybe he's going to be stuck with him for, it's like,
yeah,
you almost have the divorce, and like the papers are almost written, but not quite. Someone's saying, why don't you just live together for 2 more months just to see what happens? No. So I don't know. That's my theory.
Divorces get ugly. Well, I don't think you've sold me on that theory, okay, but the one thing that's very intriguing to me that you bring up that still has me wondering is that idea of why isn't Kyle as skeptical when talking about Trey? Because I expected that as well. I expected the same measured Kyle of old school football coach. He's not ready. He's a rookie. He's learning the playbook. There's no chance it's a competition. Jimmy's our guy. But that language has softened. And that language is trending toward this is a competition. It could be Trey's job.
Yes. And that seems like that's the narrative coming from the coaching staff and the players.
Right.
The narrative coming from the front office and ownership is, we like Jimmy. Let's pump the brakes. There's no rush. Well, you hear the coaching staff being like, hey, man, he learned the offense. I mean, we're going to have, we'll have a competition. We'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like there's two slightly different tones, narratives coming from the team. And I always find that interesting because these teams are supposed to be united fronts. They're supposed to have one message. And the Niners have a little bit of a harmony going on here, a little bit of I don't know what you want to call it. Like two different things.
It's almost a mashup because it's two different songs coming together
not really
at the same point, right? Yeah, it's no, you're right. John Lynch is effusively praising Jimmy and talking about how he's the starter. Now, he hasn't been live for a little while, so it'd be interesting to know if his vision has changed as well now that he's seeing Trey out there. But certainly Shanahan's tune has changed.
Just think about it, though. The Jimmy Garoppolo trade goes on John Lynch's resume. He traded 2 for him and extended him. Cutting him would be a big fat L on the resume. L, loss. You lost. Also, from Jed York's perspective, paid him $87 million. $87 million.
Yeah.
To just cut him and not even get a draft pick in return, big fat L. Big fat L. Kyle's perspective, hey man, that's not my problem. That is not my problem. My problem is to put the best quarterback on the field and to get out of this purgatory where we're paying $27 million for a guy who plays 2 to 6 games a year. We got to move on. It's my win-loss record, not your win-loss record, John, not your win-loss record, Jed. I'm tired of this. So that's to me why you could have competing things going on here.
Yeah. To quote Kyle, he needs a starting quarterback.
He needs a starting quarterback. That's what he's saying. Very interesting stuff. Hey, thanks for entertaining me on that one. Let's move on.
Very interesting.
All right. We have a segment that we have been meaning to make, a recurring segment. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We've only done it once, but the idea is to argue both sides of something, just to be intellectually honest, so we don't start seeming like propagandists trying to convince you of something day after day, even though that's what I do. So let's talk both sides of this Jimmy thing. Jimmy should start week 1. Jimmy should get traded before week 1. Those are the two things Niner fans are talking about, and it's pretty split.
Yeah, and rightfully so. You've got Jimmy, who we've all seen, and you got Trey, who you don't know. So starting with first one in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, coming at it from the side of Jimmy must start week 1. Jimmy must start week 1. Like, it's not even a question here, Grant. It's not. Let's get real. So point number 1, veteran presence. Dude, you know that no rookie has ever won the Super Bowl, right?
Or gone to a Super Bowl.
And we've had some pretty talented rookies out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just having that veteran presence in the locker room, just having that calming effect of Jimmy, that's what we need going into this season. We had such a letdown in 2020. We need strong veteran leadership headed into 2021 to just take us on that trajectory to the next level.
Absolutely. Yes. Do you want me to add to this or to argue against it?
No, I say we both go in at it. I mean, unless you want to take the other side, I'm fine with that.
No, I'd like to add to it too. I'd like to.
Yeah, let's do it. This is Dr. Jekyll. We're both very measured and very in favor of a veteran presence.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you always do. It's what you do in football in the NFL since the beginning of time. You take it slow with your young quarterbacks. You have a veteran that knows the system, who has chemistry with the team, who's taken this team to a Super Bowl. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer if you think about it that way. Doing it any other way would be breaking from the norm, trying to it'd be breaking from the norm. You got a starter, play him.
Breaking from the norm, and we know from Kyle's own words that he doesn't like to break from the norm. He said, I only made this blockbuster trade up to 3 because the Rams and the Seahawks have done blockbuster trades and it hasn't crippled their organization. He doesn't like to be a trendsetter. He likes to stick with the norm, and that's what this is, sticking with the norm. Now, what about the fact that Jimmy, right, everybody says he's going to be injured, but look at the pictures of him, man. He has reshaped his body from the waist down. He's added some bulk to those legs. He's going to stay away from those injuries, dude. This is the year he starts all 17.
Yeah, who's to say that he's definitely going to get hurt this year? Why are Niner fans so certain that he's brittle and made of glass and can't make it through a season, but they believe in George Kittle or Nick Bosa? Right. I mean, who's to say that those guys are more dependable than Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy played every game in 2019. George Kittle didn't. So maybe he just got hurt last year. Maybe he's going to go on to basically not be hurt the rest of his career and have a solid plus career.
Yeah, it's been a statistical anomaly the number of times he's been hurt, right? He's going to revert to the norm. He's going to have several healthy years that bring that average back down. Now, that doesn't even take into account Jimmy's firm grasp of the playbook.
Right.
Let's look. I mean, no rookie is going to come in, whether he's whip smart or not, is going to come in and learn Kyle Shanahan's playbook in one offseason. We all have been told it takes a full year in there to really learn it. Jimmy's had all this time. Last year when he was injured, even more time. So he's got that playbook down.
Yeah, everyone says it takes 2 years to really master it. Like it took Matt Ryan in his 30s or whatever, 2 years. His first year with Kyle Shanahan was not particularly great. So this guy's in year 5. He's started, 30-something games for the Niners, so about 2 years worth of games. He's essentially entering his third year worth of games with the Niners. He should be ready to roll.
He's ready to rock. Plus, 2020 was a very emotional year, and Jimmy's a locker room guy, right? I remember reading stories in 2019 of all the guys going to like pick up softball games and things like that. There was a lot of camaraderie happening, and 2020 wiped that all out. But now it's back. And so this is the type of Jimmy that we're going to see again is 2019 version where he's confident, happy. He's in the locker room chopping it up with the guys, and they're hanging out outside of the locker room. And that's going to bring back the confidence that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. So also one more thing, the offensive line is better. He got hurt early on last season when they were down to their third string center. And I don't know who they had at right guard. Now, Laken Tomlinson is the guy who missed the block. He was going against Quentin Williams, who's a monster. But still, you got Alex Mack now. You got Aaron Banks. It's a better offensive line. He has a better chance to make it through the season.
Yeah, and who knows if that missed block was a missed assignment by the center in calling out protections? Probably not. But who knows? It could have been. Now, the other piece is who are we going to trade him to, right? Everyone, get rid of him. Start Trey. That's ridiculous if you can't get something back for him. There are no teams out there currently looking for a quarterback. Most of them have all filled their spots, and he has very little trade value at this point because of that.
Because the cap went down. But cap goes back up next year. Maybe he plays well this year. Cap goes back up next year. All of a sudden, some teams might want him. Some teams can afford him. Now you you can trade him for something, as opposed to if you cut him now, you don't get anything for him, obviously.
Because that's crazy. You can't give away a top 15 quarterback in this league. That's insane, right? I think we can all agree that Jimmy's in that, well, let's say 12 to 18 range. I think
Chris
we can
Sims
say
21.
12 to 21 range, but you can't just cut a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. That's ridiculous. There aren't 32 of them. It's a precious commodity.
Yes.
All right. So Trey's the future. Should we start him now? Flip the script.
All right, hold on. Before we flip the script, let's answer a couple of these questions real quick.
Let's do it.
And then we'll do it. Felipe says Jimmy is free till week 1. There is no reason to cut him till then. Lynch has to remind Kyle every day about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Free until week 1.
He gets his game checks 1 week at a time for 18 weeks of the season. So every week he's on that roster, he's 1 point something million every week. But until we go to week 1, he hasn't been paid anything and nothing's guaranteed. A cut or a trade prior to that clears the books.
And I can see, John Lynch saying, or Jed York saying, hey, Kyle, I know you want to get rid of Jimmy, but he's free until week 1. And you haven't even seen Trey Lance in a preseason game yet.
Right?
You don't know what's – they haven't even put the pads on yet. Haven't even put the pads on yet. It's only been shorts and T-shirts. So pump the brakes. And that's a fair thing to say to the most ardent Trey Lance supporter. It's a fair thing to say, yo, why don't you wait? There's literally no reason to cut him right now. Unless you think Justin Houston's going to sign in the next 2 days and is, you got to have him. But, I mean, you signed Samson Ebukam. That's who you wanted. So it seems like you can wait.
Yeah. Certainly. There's no obvious need for the cap space right now. There are other players on the roster. You could renegotiate their contracts if you really needed to. And you never know what's going to happen in preseason. The last thing you want to do is go into the season with Josh Rosen as the starter. I mean, maybe maybe you'd like that, but I think
I
most
would.
people would not.
Johnny says Jimmy had a freak injury against Kansas City, and unfortunate conditions in New York led to that sprain. There's no way that sprain had healed. Okay.
I mean,
that's another part of this Dr. Jekyll segment.
It really is the idea that he shouldn't have come back early on it. He felt the pressure to come back early on it. I'm sure part of that pressure came from Kyle, because it was visible that he was frustrated. It was visible that he wanted his starting quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I think Jimmy pushed it.
He wanted to win.
He wanted to win. And he hadn't bulked his lower body yet, but he has now. So it's all good.
That's what people don't get about Kyle. I mean, like, they think he's so patient with Jimmy. Kyle's win-loss record is not good. He's got a losing record after 4 years. That's going to follow him around his whole career. He doesn't want to do this anymore. He blames Jimmy. It's that clear. It's Jimmy's fault. Jimmy gets hurt.
Right.
Jimmy gets hurt.
Kyle is a super competitive person. If you don't think that having that losing record bothers him, and I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and from his perspective, all he needs to win is a starting quarterback. That's all he needs. And yeah, Jimmy's a starting quarterback when he's out there. And he's not out there enough. I wonder if Kyle holds the fact that Jimmy didn't come back at the end of the season against him. Because it kind of seemed to me like Jimmy might have made a business decision at the end. I know he came back early on. Yeah, I know he came back early on when the season was in the balance, but when it was over, it seemed like he was like, well, you guys might get rid of me, and this season's over anyway, so I'm not coming back. As opposed to George Kittle, who did come back.
If you think about it from Jimmy's perspective, there's really nothing to gain in coming back from a business perspective. There was everything to lose. Had he come back, looked healthy, and still been terrible,
yes,
then it's fair to think he would be gone at this point. But because he didn't come back, it was still the unknown of, well, maybe he would have been good if he had just been healthy, and therefore he's still on the roster. Had he come back and been terrible, that would have been it.
But it's fair to hold that business decision against him if you're his coach, his teammate. I mean, it's a war game. These guys are going out there and sacrificing their bodies. The game doesn't count, but they all went out there. Jimmy Ward came back from a concussion to play in the last game. George Kittle came back from a broken foot to play the last 2 weeks. Like, do it for your brothers, right? Are they your brothers or what? So I don't know. I'm not. It's just I almost feel like, if I wonder if Kyle really was over with him at that point. Paying him $27 million and you can't even gut it out. Like, how long? It's an ankle sprain, man. You don't move anyway. I'm sorry, but there have been. I mean, I know there's different grades of high ankle sprain, but there have definitely been quarterbacks who've played on high ankle sprains. You tape it up, you don't move, you don't play your best, but you go out there and play for your team. I don't know. Maybe Jimmy not at his best isn't something he wants to show the world.
No, it's a fair thing to wonder.
All right, let's talk. Let's go, Mr. Hyde now.
Mr. Hyde, another side of the argument. Get Jimmy the hell out of here, right? Mm-hmm. Just get him out of here and start Trey.
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. What are you talking about? Get him out of here.
Yeah.
Because who cares if he has no trade value, right? Holding on to him because you're saying to yourself, we need to get something back is costing you $25 million against the cap this year that can be used on other players, or better, save for next year and use to sign your own free agents, of which you have a large number.
I also think it's costing the 49ers a legit chance to win the Super Bowl. I know they're telling themselves like, well, you need the vet to win a Super Bowl. No, I think you can win a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback as long as he proves it that he's ready. He doesn't have to be great, just ready in preseason. You can't win a Super Bowl paying Jimmy all this money. It's too much. If you got rid of him and spent that money on 3 or 4 players, you'd have a team that's as good as any team in the league. Right now, I feel like they're not quite there.
You could get another edge rusher, another cornerback, another backup offensive lineman. Yes. Another safety.
Yes.
You could deal with whatever you want. You could deal with some injuries during the season. Yeah. Right now, we are up against the cap. When we have injuries, we are now eating in next year's cap.
Yes.
By pushing money down the road, right? It's insane. It really is.
I almost feel like you're sacrificing, like you're pushing the Super Bowl window down a year. You're acting like you're keeping it open from 2 years ago. That's over.
Right.
The new
And
window is with Trey Lance, and if you don't, it doesn't open until he gets on the field, and Jimmy Garoppolo's contract's off the books.
got to be off the books. And look
Yeah.
at the fact that no one else is willing to trade anything substantial for Jimmy G, right? You're holding on to him because you say, well, we have to get something in return, but no one wants to give you anything. Why
Right.
is that?
Right.
Why is that? Well, it's because they want a starting quarterback as well. They want someone that can be healthy and on the field. And Jimmy just unfortunately isn't that guy. He's
Right.
continually hurt. And you know he's going to get injured at some point this season. Now you're not getting anything back in the offseason, and you've spent the $25 million.
And why does Jimmy get hurt? Because he's a slow decision maker and he can't move. I mean, sometimes the ball comes out of his hand quickly, but when there's like 3 or 4 times a game where he just freezes. And it's like watching someone play Madden and they drop the controller or something. It's like, dude, what happened, man? And he just takes these hits.
You can see the gears seize up in his head right before he throws that one pick where you're like, what was that?
Yep. And there's more. I mean, there's more. I mean, I don't know what the Niners think they're going to get for Jimmy. Like the book is out on him. He's not that great, and everyone knows it. He turns the ball over too much. He stares down receivers. He doesn't throw deep. He doesn't throw outside the numbers. He doesn't move. I mean, there was a lot of mystique when he was 16-2 as a starter. But now, I mean, if any GM went to his team's defensive coordinator and said, "Hey, we're thinking about trading a first-round pick for Jimmy. What do you think?" I'd be like, "Well, here's my game plan for him. Here's my scouting report to him. What do you think?" I just don't think they're ever going to get this magical first-round pick that they're holding out for. I think they're kidding themselves on that front.
Yeah, so it's foolish to hold out if you're only getting a second next offseason after Jimmy has a slightly successful year. You've now wasted all that time in developing Trey, and you're only getting a second back when you could probably, at this point in time, still get a 5th or a 6th for him from a team that wants someone to compete in training camp. And that brings up the point of you don't want to waste the valuable starts that should be going to Trey Lance. The guy hasn't played since, a year removed. You have one game that was kind of a consolation game. But you need to get him back in there. You need to get his feet wet. You can't have him sitting on the bench watching a guy who doesn't possess the same skill set. You need him in there learning the speed of the NFL.
Agree. And, Jimmy, we talked earlier about how he knows the offense. He's been in the offense. I mean, he just doesn't act like someone who's mastered it still. He just doesn't. He's not a cerebral quarterback. He still looks confused a lot of the time. I mean, I think there's a high likelihood that Trey's just better than him. I mean, how about that? Why should Trey start week 1? Because he's probably just better than Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy's the vet, but he doesn't play like one. He's a turnover machine. He doesn't throw the ball down the field. This kid could really improve the offense in a lot of ways right off the bat.
Yeah, we have an improved offensive line, but they're all new playing together. So it's fair to assume that there's going to be some pressure, some coverage breakdowns, right? And Jimmy just can't escape that. When the pressure is in Jimmy's face, Jimmy gets hit. Jimmy fumbles. Jimmy gets hurt. When the pressure is in Trey's face, he's going to be able to escape the pocket. He's going to be able to roll out and throw a dime to Brandon Ayuk. That's what we should want to see from day one.
Trey Lance is going to be like one of these quarterbacks where he burns you so hard when you try to go in for the sack and makes you miss and makes plays that defensive linemen are going to be going to well, let's just contain him. Let's see if we can just keep him in the pocket. Now, one more thing I want to say. People are always like, well, he's not going to be ready, man. He played Division II. Come on, man. He played Division II. Just a second. Carson Wentz went to the same freaking school, all right? Carson Wentz, as a rookie, started 16 games for the Eagles and won 7 of them. They were not a good team, all right? Trey Lance is a better player than Carson Wentz. He's a better athlete than Carson Wentz. Went to the same school and is on a better team. If Carson Wentz can win 7 games on the Eagles, why can't Trey Lance win 10 on the Niners, 11, 12 on the Niners? I mean, why not? He basically just would come here and do exactly what he did at North Dakota State. Hand the ball off a ton, run it 4, 5, 6 times a game, throw it like 19 times a game. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And
that's perfectly said in that just do what you have done. He had the most reps actually doing play action dropbacks, play action dropbacks where he turned his back to the defense and then came back around and made the throw. That's what you need to be able to do within Kyle Shanahan's offense. So whether he had more playing time than other quarterbacks is irrelevant. He has more time doing what he needs to do within this offense.
Right. So when you're talking about is he ready, like depends on what you're asking him to do. If you were on the Jets right now and they're like, man, we need you to play like Aaron Rodgers and throw 35 times a game. No, he's not ready for that. But is he ready to come to the 49ers and do pretty much the same stuff he did at North Dakota State, but instead of playing with whoever the hell he was playing with at North Dakota State, he's going to be throwing to George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, I think he's ready to do that. Yes, I do.
Yeah, and we're limiting the number of throws you give to Jimmy anyway, so why not limit the number of throws you're giving to a rookie? And now you have a running threat.
I mean, how many throws that Kyle Shanahan calls per game for Jimmy are? How many of those? 3, 4? I mean, I think he can do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I might be able to complete that.
So yeah, I really think here's the clincher. Niner fans, as soon as they see Trey Lance for the first time, are going to be Mr. Hyde. It's just the fear of the unknown. You've seen Jimmy, you've seen him win, you've seen him in the Super Bowl. You have not seen Trey Lance, maybe at all. I mean, who's really seen North Dakota? So you've seen some highlights. You've heard me talk about him. Once you see Trey Lance in a Niners uniform in a preseason game, rolling out, throwing down the field, making pass rushers miss, scrambling, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm never going back. I'm never going back from this. It's like when you sit down in a really great chair. It's like, how have I missed? Or a king size bed. It's like, I'm never going back. I've upgraded my life, and this is it. That's how you feel. Yeah.
Don't go test drive a brand new car that you can't afford, because then your car is not going to feel the same, right?
That's how I feel about my Kia Stinger. I can never go down. This is the best. I love this car, and I'm getting it back from the shop today. Thank God.
You can't downgrade from that, right? You can't go back to some other lesser vehicle.
You'll feel like when you see Trey Lance, it'll be like test driving an Audi R8 or whatever after driving a Camry the last 5 years. It's like, ooh man, I really didn't know what I was missing. Like I was like really telling myself, it's nice. I get good gas mileage. It's good. I like that. It's clean. It was cost effective, although Jimmy's none of those things. But and you get in a new car, you're like, man, I don't understand how I lived this lifestyle before.
We are attached to a used car that's super expensive.
Yes. Breaks
down all the time.
Yes.
Doesn't have really great performance, is more of like a mid-sized sedan, but we're paying as if it's, an Italian sports car. And now we have a car that performs like an Italian sports car.
Kia Stinger.
But is really inexpensive.
Yes,
it's going to be hard to go back.
No, I gotta say that Trey Lance is definitely the Kia Stinger in this analogy, and Jimmy is like, what is he? He's not a performance car. It's something really slow, like a luxury car that's slow. Yeah, he's like an Acura. He's like an Acura TSX that you bought somehow for like $150,000 because it was made in New England by Tom Brady or something. Some dumb reason. I'm sorry.
Because it was owned by John Voight.
It was owned by John Voight. You bought like a collector's item Acura TSX front wheel drive, 180 horsepower.
Like 90% of your audience won't understand that Seinfeld reference, but the people who get it will love it.
Anyway, so that's that's two sides of the coin. That was fun to argue. Felipe has a leather point. He's on this. Thanks for waiting. Maybe the 49ers are waiting to sign Warner before they. So that I think what he's trying to say is maybe the Niners are going to cut Jimmy before they sign Warner, and maybe that's why we're not hearing anything about Warner, because it's like, look, man, we're gonna get you, but we don't have the space right now, and we don't want to just give the team to Trey Lance because he's a rookie. We'd like him to we'd like it to even just be perceived that there was a competition and he won it. Maybe that's. Who knows? It's a very interesting theory. I like theories. Today's all about theories. If you got one, send it in.
A little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, Fred, the payday's coming. We just got to free up a little bit of that money by jettisoning. We
just got to free up $23.6 million. Not sure exactly how we're going to do it, but you just got to wait. We got to free up a little bit, get creative. I don't know who's on the way out.
It's not a terrible thought, because in my mind, there are only a couple of other contracts they can attack in order to get the money. And I don't know that fans would be excited about it. I don't know the front office would, in Eric Armstead or Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward's camp may say, no, we're not going to renegotiate. We want an extension if you want some leeway. And Eric Armstead, that's already a backloaded contract. So could they be waiting to jettison a significant amount of money? Maybe.
I don't know. Very interesting. We got one more comment real quick, and then we're going to move on. Isaac says, Don Burr said it in the chat, we're paying Jimmy like he's a Lamborghini, but he performs like a Ford Pinto.
Was it the Pinto or the Gremlin that if you got into a rear end collision actually exploded and therefore was in a recall? I feel like that's an apt analogy there that unfortunately, and just to clarify, I remain on the staunch start Jimmy week 1, regardless of what I said in the Mr. Hyde segment. But I do like a good joke at Jimmy's expense. I think he makes enough money that we can certainly ride him hard on that.
Well, you did such a good job in the Mr. Hyde segment. I really thought you were coming around, but that's how good you did. I thought you'd change your mind. So that really shows that you've seen both sides of the argument.
I have, and I can play cards. I do have a poker face, unlike our coach.
I don't. I'm just like Kyle Shanahan, which is why I think he bugs me so much. It's really getting mad at myself most of the time.
That would explain a lot.
Okay, so we've kind of been alluding to this, but let's say Trey Lance doesn't win this quarterback competition. Let's say Jimmy Garoppolo starts week 1 for any number of the reasons we've laid out. And let's say he wins, man. He started 8-0 in 2019. And remember, he was not playing well in camp. He threw 5 picks in one practice, like 5 straight passes were intercepted. It was amazing. It was like after the first 2, it was like, is he going to do it again? Yes, he is. Is he going to go for 4? Yes, he is. It was quite amazing. So that happened. And then there were reports from Mike Silver saying, hey, man, the Niners really like Nick Mullins. If Jimmy Garoppolo was coming off that torn ACL, if you remember. Right. And there was some like, is he going to be good? And they were saying that they like Nick Mullins. If Jimmy Garoppolo has a slow start, short leash, yada, 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 8-0 start. So what if Jimmy Garoppolo just somehow starts week 1 and goes 8-0 and does it again? Does this what happens, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild hypothetical. And for this, I think it's good to assume that his play hasn't really changed, right? So yeah, they're winning, but it's not like Jimmy's taking over the games and is now this elite Brett Favre, right? He's Jimmy. He's not a gunslinger. He's Jimmy. He's not pushing it outside of the boundaries. He's not pushing it down the field. It's a lot of dink and dunk. He's still making the occasional terrible turnover. And it begs the question, do you stick with Jimmy? You maximize his trade value. You hope that he can carry you into the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, hopefully to the Super Bowl, and then you trade him in the offseason and go over to Trey? Or is it better to say, well, he's on a high note and pull the old 2012, pull the rug out from under Alex Smith and start Kaepernick at the first injury and do that again this year? It's rough for me. I'm interested to know of those 2 scenarios, which you would go with.
Well, I think it's possible that if he starts week 1 and wins, then it's suddenly his job to lose.
Right.
And there's really no decision for the organization to make. As long as he keeps winning, he keeps the job, and Trey Lance stays on the bench indefinitely. It seems like that's maybe what could be bothering Kyle Shanahan, is that he's never really got to start the quarterback he wants to start at any point as a head coach. He always kind of feels like the decision has been taken out of his hands. And it could happen again. It really could, right? There's an emotional attachment that Niner fans have with this guy. And if he keeps winning, then who's going to push him out the door?
Right. And he could be frustrated by that because Kyle believes the team is good enough to win with almost anyone at quarterback. Yes. And therefore it's not attributable to Jimmy. It's more the team is fantastic and Kyle's offense is so great. And he would be frustrated because he really wants to play with the new toy that's in the garage and not the old and busted that he's driving on the regular. Right. So, yes. So I definitely think that with Kyle, there could be the temptation, especially if what you supposed at the beginning is actually true, where he's frustrated by this seeming pressure to keep Jimmy as the starter. Personally, I'm sticking with Jimmy. Mm-hmm. I'm sticking with Jimmy because I have flashbacks to 2012. I have flashbacks to that whole decision to go to Cap and to bail on Alex Smith. But that's emotional baggage for me. That's me like, so many years of Alex struggling and then feeling like he sort of got betrayed when he had trusted the organization, trusted Harbaugh. I don't think that that's exactly the case here. I think in this case, the organization doesn't owe Jimmy much, if anything, from this point forward. They have certainly compensated him well and given him chances to be successful. But I stick with the idea of don't mess with a good thing. If you are 8-0, even if you're 7-1, 6-2, don't mess with a good thing. Stick with Jimmy, and you can always bail later on. If you have a couple of losses in a row, perfect. Now throw Trey in. But don't do it while Jimmy is rolling, because we need to ride that. We need to ride as many wins as we can. And to me, the millions of dollars that we save isn't as important as going for the Super Bowl. I would gladly give up $25 million of Jed York's money in order to win a Super Bowl, even to get deep into the playoffs.
Yeah. It seems to me that the only way that Kyle Shanahan really has a choice here is if he makes this call before week 1. You know, if he benches Jimmy Garoppolo before week 1, he can do whatever he wants. But if Jimmy starts week 1, then at that point, Jimmy is only going to bench himself at that point. He'll have to play so bad or get hurt. Otherwise, we've seen that he can basically play at a level that he can win more than he loses.
Yeah. The pressure then it all shifts to what happens with Jimmy. As soon as Jimmy struggles, it's no longer Kyle, oh, well, I'm going to trade because of no. You went to trade because Jimmy struggled and you were left with no options. It's not a choice, to your point. And I think he does crave choice. I mean, that's why they traded to 3 was for choice, right?
Yes. And, it's starting to seem a little bit like the Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick thing again. There was never a quarterback competition between them. I guess they felt the first year that Colin just wasn't ready. He was coming from a pistol offense. There was no spring practices. He learned the offense for the first time in training camp. He never really had a chance to start as a rookie. And I think they wanted him to start year 2, but Alex went 13-3 and went to the NFC Championship game. And, he didn't play great in that game, but he played great in the game before. And he wasn't the reason they lost.
No.
I mean, Kyle Williams was the reason they lost. And it would have been tough to just bench him, even have a quarterback competition. If you can remember 10 years ago, it would have been kind of tough to just, there was a lot of Alex Smith fans at that time. And so the reason Colin Kaepernick got the job is because Smith got hurt. And you could see that Jim Harbaugh was dying to give it to Colin Kaepernick all along. He was just looking for an opportunity and couldn't do it. I mean, it's something he wanted to do, but felt he couldn't. It's not, you see what I'm saying? Like these decisions can get away from you.
Yeah.
Harbaugh felt like it was, well, my hands are tied here.
And so this one hasn't gotten away from Kyle yet.
Yes.
This one is still in his court, still his right to make a decision. But as to your point, as soon as week 1 hits, that choice evaporates. Because now if you've started Jimmy, it all depends on his play. If Jimmy's winning, you got to stick with him. But if he doesn't, now you were forced into the switch.
That's why I think I think there's going to be some urgency from Kyle Shanahan's from him to prove that Trey Lance is ready to fast track him. It's like I keep going to the car analogy. It's like Kyle's 16 and Jed York and John Lynch are his parents, and they've given him this kind of terrible car, but they have the Kia Stinger in the garage, but they're telling him it's not ready. And Kyle's like working on it himself, being like, no, it's ready. What'd you say? The carburetor? Got that. No, it's good. I know what I'm doing. It's like, let me please drive this before the summer ends. Come on. I'm not trying to take old and busted out to the strip. Come on, man. Hook me up.
And it will be interesting in the preseason games to see if Kyle calls the plays to sort of highlight what Trey can do, but also emphasize what Jimmy can't. Maybe force Jimmy into some scenarios where he has to throw outside the numbers, has to push it deep, and test him.
I got a theory. Okay, it's theory day, all right? So 2019, that day that Jimmy Garoppolo threw 5 picks in a practice, what was that? I almost felt like that was orchestrated by Kyle. Not that he made Jimmy throw the picks, but a lot of times if a quarterback throws a pick in a practice, they back off.
Right.
They're like, you know what? Let's, do something else. It's like Kyle kept going back to it. It's like, oh, you just threw a pick doing that? Let's do something similar. Let's see how many times you're going to make the same mistake in front of the media, because it became a national story. I mean, people who weren't there, people on NFL Network were talking about it. It's like, I don't know. It just seemed like it wasn't orchestrated, but it absolutely could have been prevented by the coach. And he was like, "Hey, man, come on, buddy, let's do it again. Do it again.
You're on your own, pal.
You're on your own." So I wonder. I always felt that whenever CJ Beathard got in the game, anytime, real games, preseason games, it was like all the stuff that Kyle Shanahan wasn't calling for Jimmy, like the rollouts, the dinks, and like really easy throws. Yeah. Really easy throws. And I think we're going to see that for Trey.
Could have thrown in a jet sweep to stop the trend of interceptions, but didn't. Before we get to this, I would just like to say I would pay to have seen live video of those interceptions and your inner monologue as it was happening. I just imagine that was delightful.
It wasn't an inner monologue, let me tell you. It was me going up to every beat writer being like, do you know that he's just thrown 3 in a row? Do you think he's gonna do it again? He did it again. He did it again. Oh, 4? Where did you see that? Can he go for 5? Can we go for 5? Can we go for 5? Like that scene in Ferris Bueller where they're doing it at that Wall Street, throwing up numbers and stuff. 5? Yes. Brian Adams says, Jimmy can lose games for you with his turnovers. I don't see Trey doing that. What's your thoughts? Okay, I think that's a good segue to a topic I wanted to bring up. The most overlooked aspect of Trey Lance's game. Now, we can go back and forth. There's not one thing, but when people talk about him, it's all the physical stuff. Well, he's mobile. He can run. He can throw downfield. There's so much more about him that is exciting, and it's why he's here. So I can start. To me, what people don't understand, to Brian's point, yes, the cerebral part of the game. He's not theoretically not going to turn the ball over as much. He's not going to just throw the ball up for grabs. He's going to check it down, throw it away. I've seen him do it. I've seen him throw the ball away in practice. I've seen him check it down a lot, and he's going to also scramble. He's going to commit fewer turnovers. He's going to be a better game manager. But the other thing I want to mention, he's got a lot in common with Alex Smith in good ways. In good ways. One, the game managing aspect, he's matured like Alex Smith. The other thing is Alex Smith was great before the play. Like you get the play call, you go to the line of scrimmage, you call it. But if you're really smart, coaches will give you maybe 2 plays, 3 plays, and they'll say pick the right one based on the front and the coverages and what you see. And Alex Smith was just deadly at that. He would get it right. He would win games based on the adjustments he made pre-snap. That was the flashiest thing he did, and Trey Lance is going to be able to do that. And Jimmy isn't that good at that. It's just not. He's more of a reactive player. He's not a super cerebral guy. It's what Trey Lance can do. He can improve the run game just by making the right checks at the line of scrimmage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is clear that Trey Lance, my boy, is wicked smart. He's wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
That's the old. I can claim Boston as my origin, so it's okay to do a Boston accent there.
Okay,
but yeah, I think that is absolutely a huge advantage. That Kyle totally believes that he gives the answers to the test to his quarterback. Yeah. His offense provides the answers, and all you have to be able to do is recognize, great, what question is the defense asking me right now, and then I'm going to hit what Kyle tells me to hit. And part of that is recognizing pre-snap. And what's clear is that Jimmy can win, but he is not going to take the offense to the next level in that regard. I remember watching Alex Smith do that, and it was clear as day that he excelled in that area of his game. And everything we hear about Trey is the ability to process, the ability to recognize it, the relentless hours of film study that are going to prepare him for those moments. And he can put the offense in the correct position to take advantage of those schemes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with Alex Smith, I don't know if you remember it, but 2012, I think they started the season in Green Bay, and they were supposed to lose that game. Green Bay was really good. They hadn't played Green Bay the season before. And the way they used to do it was Harbaugh would give Alex Smith two plays, and he would either go let it roll or kill before the play. And he did that all the time. And in that game, whenever he said kill, whatever he went with was like a huge play every time. And to me, it was the story of the game. Like he won that game with his calls to the line of scrimmage. If I remember correctly, what they did was they kept going to outside runs with Gore and inside runs with Hunter, which is what you would not expect. And Gore had a very long touchdown run that took like 8 years where he was way outside. And Green Bay was not expecting it. I felt like it was kind of if you were an Alex Smith enthusiast, you would appreciate that game. And that's what Trey Lance, I think, is going to be able to do.
And I think that fans really need to understand, because they're on the hype train of the physical gifts that Trey possesses. Yes. They really need to grasp this idea that as a game manager, he could be better. Yes, he'll provide that additional, when the play breaks down, he will be able to provide those additional highlight reels, but he's going to work better from within the offense.
Yeah.
And that's counterintuitive to most people.
And the thing about like Jimmy, if you go back to the Super Bowl, here's the tough one about the Super Bowl. My big criticism for Kyle is not running more, especially in the fourth quarter, especially on like second downs. You're winning. It's second down. Why are you passing? You can go back and look at Jimmy going on those second down passes. That is Kyle's version of the kill, kill, kill. Instead of having him do let it roll, it's nothing for that. And kill, kill, kill is, I get this a little less vulgar. I don't know. It's a check. So we're going to the second play, and you can see him. He'll go incomplete pass over the middle. It's like, Jimmy, what are you doing? That was the wrong call. So I think you're going to be able to see just an improvement from that. The guy picking the right place.
It's hard to argue against starting somebody when they can offer you more from a game manager perspective and more when the play breaks down.
Yeah.
If both of those are true, you have to ask yourself, what am I getting more from if I'm starting Jimmy?
Yeah, exactly. And there's more. I mean, just think about what Trey Lance is going to do. His presence on the field is going to do for the run game. This happened with the Niners and Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Alex Smith was great, and he would call the right plays at the line of scrimmage, but he wasn't a run threat, really. He could scramble around a little bit, but he wasn't a run threat. It wasn't 11-on-11 football. As soon as Kaepernick became the starter, every running back's yard per carry average just jumped. Like Frank Gore went from averaging 4 yards per carry to 5 yards per carry, just because now it's a whole different equation. It's 11-on-11. The defense is accounting for Colin Kaepernick. In this case, it's going to be Trey Lance. And you see it now with the Ravens. Like, the Ravens running backs average like 6 yards a carry, not because they're great, but because everyone's worried about Lamar Jackson. So he can improve the running game by just standing on the field. He can do it from under center, calling the right play. He can get in the shotgun and run zone reads. And when the defense is really starting to load up against the run, well, he's got the arm to beat you over the top. So it's going to be pretty eventually, man, unless he's a total stiff. And from what I've seen in practice, he's not. He's really not.
No. I mean, just the limited footage that I've seen is impressive. You see what you want to see talent-wise from a number 3 overall pick, someone that you gave up so much to get. Exactly. And it truly becomes 11-on-11 football instead of 11-on-10, where the quarterback is trying to beat that extra man with their head. Now you have a guy who, yes, is cerebral and can do that with pre-snap reads, with the ability to recognize the defense after the snap, but the ability with his legs to make them miss. And that is so challenging for defenses. Just think of our very stellar defenses and the way in which we struggle when we play Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray. It's so hard to cover those guys and cover the run game and the wide receivers. It just becomes too much for defenses to handle in most cases.
Yeah. So I see why the Niners brought him in. I mean, he's going to make this offense quite exciting, even without throwing the ball.
Absolutely.
A quarterback who can do all this without throwing the ball, but he's going to. And what's cool about him is if he only throws 19 passes a game, 4 or 5 of those are going to be big plays. Big plays. It's going to be cool. I mean, I keep going back to Seattle 10 years ago with Russell Wilson. He wasn't the best quarterback in the league. He wasn't even necessary. I mean, he threw less than every other quarterback in the league. But when he did throw, he won games. He made huge plays, and he was the X factor of that team. So I think the Niners could do something similar.
We're really missing something, not pushing the ball. That's the biggest area of Jimmy's game that, even as someone who prefers to start Jimmy week 1, I want to see more of. I think he's capable of the throws. I think he's inconsistent on them. But if he's not willing to push it, then I'm out. Like if it's a fear thing, or if it's can't make the throws, he feels he can't make the throws, then I'm out. It's time to switch.
Alex Smith was the same way back when he was with the Niners. He became more aggressive with Kansas City, but when he was with the Niners, he wouldn't pull the trigger on deep throws, outside throws. He was kind of like Jimmy for different reasons. And so same thing happened with Kaepernick. Like all of a sudden, the defense goes from having to defend this little area, to having to defend everything. And it's shocking. And I think that's all of a sudden there's so much more grass for the whole offense to work with when Colin Kaepernick's on the field. It was easier. Now, eventually defenses caught up to him, but early on they were just like flabbergasted.
That's my question is whether we wait to start him, because of the idea that I believe in 2012, had we stuck with Alex for longer or the entirety of it, we had a chance to win that Super Bowl. Obviously we had a chance anyway, but defenses did catch up to Kaepernick. Had we waited and started him later, they would have had less film and potentially would have been able to take advantage of the Ravens, much like we had everyone else leading up to that point. Maybe it was the pressure of the Super Bowl that got to him and Alex would have done better. But I think the same could be true this year with Jimmy. So it wouldn't surprise me to see keep Jimmy up until the trade deadline, then make the switch as late as possible while getting something back for Jimmy and clearing some money off the books and provide less tape of Trey heading into the playoffs.
Possible. Interesting. Tape, experience, what's more important in the postseason? I don't know.
Right?
Good question. Yeah, you got me on that one. All right, let's switch it up a little bit. Do the 49ers have the best running back duo in the NFL? Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon. What do you think? Other good running back duos would be Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas.
Yep.
Kareem
Browns
Hunt and Nick Chubb, Cleveland.
Bucks.
Others.
Yeah.
Oh, Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones and
Saints
Tampa.
with Kamara and Murray.
Oh, yeah. Good call. All
Yeah.
right.
So, I mean, I think I went back in time for this. I looked up 2019, and there was only one team above the 49ers in total rush yards that year, and it was the Baltimore Ravens at 206 yards per game, which is just crazy. I mean, just crazy. So look at that and then think of what our offense could have been if we had had Trey that year and he were running the ball. Well, we averaged 144 yards a game that year. And obviously that was more of a trifecta, right? Breida had close to 700 yards that season. But this year, I truly believe with the investments in the O-line and the pickup of Trey Sermon, I think with Mostert and Sermon, you have a very real possibility to have the best running back duo in the league if healthy.
Okay. I'm going to say that the Cleveland duo is the best. I think those guys are crazy. But the Niners have something special in the sense that their two could actually lead the league in yards per attempt. I mean, those two could actually outproduce the ones in Cleveland. Why? Because of Trey Lance. What they got in Cleveland is Baker Mayfield, who's just a regular quarterback, not 11 on 11 football. And that's just going to make it life more difficult on the running backs. They're fabulous running backs, but you look at the guys in Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, not the best running backs in the league, but J.K. Dobbins averaged 6 yards a carry last year and Gus Edwards averaged 5. Why? Because of Lamar Jackson. If Joe Flacco was their quarterback, they wouldn't be averaging stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, the Niners could have some very, very prolific running backs this season because of the quarterback and because they're excellent as well. They're just going to get that Trey Lance bounce.
That 2019 was with a statue as quarterback, and they were still able to execute as the second best overall rushing team. And if you took Lamar Jackson out of the average yards for Baltimore, then the running backs of the 49ers had more yards than the running backs of the Ravens. And to your point, that's without the threat of a mobile quarterback. To me, Sermon is an upgrade over Tevin Coleman that year. And yes. I granted, I'm just watching NFL college tape, and we haven't seen him in the league yet. It will take him time to develop, but I think he's going to have that surge like Cam Akers did last year for the Rams, where when he finally grasped the playbook, he was lights out towards the end of the year. Nobody could tackle him. I think skill set, he's a physical runner. He's super quick. That initial burst, he may not have that top end speed, but that initial burst to get through the line on a one cut run in Kyle's system, I think that that's an ideal fit. And then Mostert, if we can reduce those carries, man, he's just a home run hitter. I think part of it is his vision. And after spending that time in Hawaii at Waikiki Beach and watching the surfers all week, I'm convinced that they have this like vision. They can see the waves coming in, they can see the pipeline, and they just have this ability to project in their visual space. And Mostert has a skating and surfing background. And his vision, his ability to see the holes as they're opening up like the pipeline of a wave is uncanny. He hits that hole so quick if he can stay healthy. I just think that he is destined to average plus 6 yards, the entire season. And if Trey is in there, I mean, forget about it. Forget
about it. Here, let me say real quick, a good point about the surfing. That was really cool. Let me say real quick about how Trey Lance is going to help each running back. So for Mostert is a much better when the quarterback's under center than when he's not. Just because of the angle, you want him deep. You want him kind of making a gradual turn, not really like a 90-degree turn. A lot of times the shotgun runs are, if you're running outside, it's like a 90-degree turn or just quick up the middle. I think he's much better under center. So what you're going to see is the fact that the runs with him are going to involve Trey Lance booting out every time, whether it's play action or not. And you don't see that with Jimmy because he doesn't move. And so that's going to keep the backside defensive end who's unblocked like hesitant, and he'll be less of a factor in defending the run. He'll be worried about Trey Lance, be one less guy running after Raheem Mostert. He's going to have more space. So that's how Trey Lance is going to help him. See what I'm saying? Just the bootleg action every time.
And one of the inside backers is probably going to be the spy on that play. So now you have two defenders that are keying in specifically to stop the quarterback, and you have because wide open lanes.
Out, those are big plays that
right.
They're going to
And so to your point, if they use those formations with keeping Mostert in when it's under center, and then in the shotgun putting in the rookie in the shotgun, right? There are fewer immediate pass protection needs, right? Because Trey's going to have room. He's going to see everything in front of him. And so that's typically the concern with rookies is, well, they don't know the pass protection scheme, so you can't put them in because they're going to get your quarterback killed. In the shotgun formation, that's a little bit less of a priority.
Yeah, and another thing, so with Sermon, he'll be more in shotgun formations.
Right.
And what's cool about him is he's really good at that. He's like Jeff Wilson Jr. It's what he did at Ohio State with Justin Fields. So when you want to put Trey Lance in the shotgun, which you definitely want to do, running threat quarterbacks, even look at Lamar Jackson. He's in the shotgun a lot. Now you get to use the zone read. Now you get that part of the game. And that's going to make Trey Sermon really good because people are going to be so concerned with Trey Lance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm bold prediction. I like to make some bold predictions. I think the 49ers lead the league in rushing this year, whether or not they start Trey Lance. I think it will be a blowout if they start Trey Lance.
I think they will as well, because I think they're definitely, if Trey Lance is a starter, they're going to lead the league in rushing attempts. They're going to be last in the league in passing attempts. And they're going to probably lead the league in yards per carry, yards, rushing touchdown. Yeah, they could rush for what, 3,000 yards? Did Baltimore do that last year?
200 yards a game, yeah, would be 3,200 yards. Not last year, but 2019. I don't know.
They did 300 yards. No, they rushed for 3,071 yards last year, Baltimore. So maybe the Niners could do that.
It seems plausible.
Trey Lance goes for 800. Trey Sermon goes for 900. Raheem Mostert goes for 1,300, something like that.
I like it.
Could happen.
I like it.
Yeah. Good call.
I'm excited about the other rookie as well, right? Elijah Mitchell. I think that within Kyle's offense, I don't know that he'll get much playing time, but I predict he'll have some big runs like Breida did, where it just is a home run, right? Catch out of the backfield, and that speed is just going to carry him to the end zone.
Yes. I wonder, though, how many running backs the Niners will use when Trey Lance becomes the quarterback, because he's going to need some carries too. How many? You know, that he's part of the running back committee. Like Lamar Jackson runs the ball about 10 times a game in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So
I think it's fair to assume that we'll go through our depth chart because of injury, because that's just what we do. But in games, I think it's fair to assume that the three running backs could be 1 and 2 and Trey as the third running back.
I would think so, because between
the carries.
Between the two Treys and Mostert, that's about 35 carries.
Yeah.
So
that'd be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's our show today. I'm glad that we got to talk about some cockamamie theories and the truth about the 49ers backfield. We went from the Inquirer to some interesting, insightful stuff. I thought it was the whole spectrum of the things that we can provide as YouTube personalities. So I'm pleased with this show.
As am I. You have to give the wild takes that people can get really upset about, and
Yes.
then the measured takes that someone can read or listen to with their afternoon tea if they're a bit more refined.
Yeah, if they were so inclined. Rob, always a pleasure.
And you, sir.
See you guys a little later. I'll be back in like 55 minutes.
The hardest working man in show business.
Thank you. See you.